And now it's time to join in one of my teammates on the Giants broadcast team, Giants legend Howard Cross, Super Bowl champion, two-time Super Bowl participant, and a guy who, between his announcing and his playing days, has spent more than half of his years with Big Blue. Howard, it's always good to see you.
Hey, good to see you too, Paulie.
Hey, Brian Dable, the Giants head coach, has made a very concerted effort this season to bring in Giants legends for each of the spring practices to talk to the team. You were one such player who he asked to do that. This is a bit of a change from recent years where even though legends always are around, Brian's gone out of his way to reach out. What are your thoughts about what he's done with you guys?
I think that Brian's kind of had that. I think I did it his first year, and then it was quiet a couple of years, and maybe other guys were doing it. And he asked me, he saw me at the Giants golf outing, and he says, "Hey, would you be willing to speak to the team? You come into practice?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll be a practice coach. I'll be whatever you want me to say." And he didn't really give me. Kind of said like, "Yeah, just be your authentic self and tell them what you think." And I said, "Okay, I'll tell them what I think." So it's kind of how it went.
Well, when you went to the practice
Mm-hmm.
and you saw what was going on with the players and then had to speak with them afterwards, what kind of reaction do you think you got from them? Do you think you think you connected with them? Is it hard to do sometimes because it's a different generation of player? Obviously, you already have a son who's in the National Football League now.
You know, First off, I give speeches to a lot of different groups, a lot of different organizations, whether business organizations, sports organizations, kids groups. So talking is kind of like what we do. We do it on TV and radio and everywhere all the time. Connecting with guys, I think, is different in the sense of you give the message that means something to you, and it's up to them to receive it. At the end of the day, you can try to connect to them, try to be there, try to make some interaction. But at the end of the day, if you're passionate about something, you should be able to speak freely, and you know whoever is willing to hear it is going to hear it.
Hmm. Did you go into the practice with a preconceived idea of what you wanted to say, or did you go there to observe and then just speak freely off of what you saw and what you were reacting to?
No, I think we kind of talked about it a little bit. I asked him like what he felt was important. I said, "What do you feel is important?" And he's talking about, we got to talk about some protecting our house and home field. I like that. And he goes and talk about your heart, talk about hard work. And, it's typical what a coach would say he would want you to talk about. So for me, like talking about it, I was like, okay, well, I just thought about what I think is important in my own home, what I think is important for my own son and my daughter, for what I think is important for, any corporation or anything. And that's kind of how the speech was developed. You tell some stories of how you were raised. You tell some stories of what was important to you at the moments in time. Tell some stories about, how you got where you are. And then to end it up, you tell them how important it is to be in the spot that you're in.
Well, I would not ask you to repeat it. That would be unfair. That would be unfair to do. But if there
And
was,
probably wouldn't be something you want to play out loud either. They did a really nice job cleaning it up for me, so I'm glad they did that.
of course, as the Giants obviously put some highlights of it up on Giants.com. If there's one thing though that of all the things that you said during the few minutes that you had to talk to the group after it was over, if there's one thing that you want more than anything to stick, to have made an impact, to have become memorable to the group, what do you think that one item would have been?
I mean, I told them it's like it's our our house, our team, our family. That's what it is. You have to remember that. I think that's more than anything else. I don't know if guys, the world's different. Everybody's exchanging jerseys, and we're all kumbaya. I'm like, yeah, no, that's not how I play ball. Like we're out here to battle. It's a battle. Like you can hang out in the off season. If that's what you guys want to do, but my college roommate not in exchange jersey. So I'm just saying that if it's anything, realize that Put on your uniform. This is your uniform. This is your unit. This is your house. This is your home. Fight to defend it. Like that's what it is, and it's a constant battle. And I also told them, you know, probably the most important thing in football: know your stuff, man. Like be on top of everything. The amount of time we put in studying and looking through and the huge ass scouting reports that we looked at, I'm like, those things were like, you know, the lifeblood of what we did. I said, if you don't know your stuff, go home because you're not helping anybody. And that's pretty much the message.
Howard, we've been around this organization for a long time, and there have always been alums who have been around periodically. I'm going to ask you to go back to when you were a rookie. When you came into this organization, do you recall some retired guys who had an impact on you with maybe a visitation or something they said? I mean, you had a lot of veterans on your team, don't get me wrong, guys who you could look up to in the locker room. But were there alums that kind of, gave you a little bit of a spark about some particular idea or thought that you were able to take into your career?
I think mostly it was guys like Harry because Harry was always around. Getting to know him and the legendary Harry Carson, such a great player, a great linebacker, and the passion he felt about the team, the captain. I think it was George Martin, great man, great player, but great man, and his longevity and how he committed to playing and doing what he did for so long. I'm like, that was impressive. Talking with him, and then you have to think about other guys that was like Gifford was around all the time. Uh, he spoke a lot to us. There were so many guys that were around to talk to. In the radio booth, they would come out and talk to us and spend a lot of time with us. So you got to see how the Giants were a family, and like the once a Giant, always a Giant thing kind of stuck out to us because these guys were around. They didn't seem to go away. They were just part of the fabric of the team, part of the fabric of the day-to-day lives, and it meant a lot. And beyond all of them, and I do mean I respect and love all those players. Beyond all of them, was well in Marin. Like watching him be a part of every practice, watching him be a part of everything we did, watching him when you walked into the locker room, he was there to shake your hand, win or loss, and he was just a constant, and it just became like we said. I had dinner with him out at his home, and I was honored that he would even invite me. It was just it made it family. Getting to know the Tisch family and spent time with Bob, Mr. Tisch when he was alive. Spent time with John and Steve a lot. So and doing charity work for both families and being around them, that it just makes it family.
So, Howard, you've seen this now for so many years and from different angles as a player, as a broadcaster, over the course of the decades. There is something to be said, like when Eli said, once a Giant, always a Giant. There is something about this organization, the tradition, the history, the people, the class, the respect. I try to tell people all the time, maybe you can't touch it and feel it, but it's something that's real.
Yeah, it is something that's real. It's harder and harder to be with a team forever, for your entire career. That's one, because contracts and guys coming in and free agency and everything, it's going to be harder. But for the guys that are able to stick it out for a large part of their career, they're always a Giant. For guys that are barely here but for a little bit, seems like they're always a Giant because I see guys that played 1 or 2 years here showing back up. I see guys that played their entire career here showing back up. So again, once a Giant, always a Giant. It's one of the original NFL franchises. One of the biggest commitments to football came from this franchise. The football we play with is kind of named after our nickname, the Duke. So we have a lot to do with the game of the NFL, and we have a lot to do with the history of the NFL. When I say we, I don't mean we as in the players, but we as in the Giants, part of that family and that organization. That means a lot. When guys take the time to take a little study and to look around and try to, grasp what the league is, where it came from, where it is today, where it might be going. They'll see that in the forefront of that will be the Giants.
All right, Howard. Well, at the same time, even though the Giants are the Giants, the players do turn over. The roster does change. And it seems as though the last couple of years, each off season, about a third of the team has changed and been overturned. Tremendously impressive draft class by most experts. You had a
Mhm.
chance to see some of these rookies out of practice over the course of the last couple of weeks and some of the new veterans they brought in. What kind of vibe are you getting? Although we all know that spring football is not the same as what they do in September.
Well, look, they're all happy to be back. They're all excited to be teammates and to be together. They're making some plays, albeit all in pajamas. I appreciate the pajamas that they wear, and you're restricted by a lot of things. And I'm not, get off my yard guy. They're not able to get any, pass rush versus the D line, O line. They're not able to do any kind of contact. It's basically a glorified 7-on-7 practice with just having some linemen there to look good. There's nobody on the ground ever, which is a good thing because they're not in any pass to protect themselves. But they seem to be working together really well. They seem to be excited to be out there. They're moving pretty quick. And a lot of guys, most of the guys are healthy. So that is probably the sounding board for everything. And it's going to be great to see, the thing that's been, I think, has been the hamstring for the team for so long is, can they keep their offensive line? Can they keep 5 to 7 guys super healthy and super productive to make the team, move along? Because I think that is like I think that's like the wheel that they need to keep on the ground constantly is you got to keep those 5 guys up front ready to go. Because if you don't, a lot of other things won't work either.
Yeah, we know it always starts with the line, Howard. That's something
Mm-hmm.
that's never going to change. And if they can hold up, they got themselves a new situation at quarterback between the older veteran and Russell Wilson, who's very accomplished and done a lot of things in this league. And then obviously Jameis Winston's here, and we know Jackson Dart's here, and even Tommy DeVito is still here. You played with a number of different quarterbacks in your time. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
heck, you went with multiple quarterbacks to 2 Super Bowls. So how do you view this Giants quarterback room in terms of how they will try to develop Jackson Dart as he sits and watches the older guys in the room try to go out there and teach him some things?
Well, you really hope that they're not developing Jackson Dart, and not in a mean way. That means that the Giants are playing well. That means that they're very productive offensively. And if they're productive offensively, then all of a sudden he can sit for a longer period of time.
Right.
If he has to come in game 6, game 7, game 8, game whatever midway through the season, then they're not having that great of a year. And it's like, well, let's get a kid a shot. I don't, I'm hoping that that's not the case. I'm hoping the offensive line holds. I'm hoping that the Russell is able to get the ball out. Russell Wilson is a down the field deep ball thrower, which that takes time. You don't just throw it down the field off of one step. That's usually 3 to 5 or out of a shotgun, and it takes time to get the ball down the field. It takes time for the receiver to get open. The entire process, the maturation of everything has to work together. And what that takes is an offensive line. If the line can hold up, they'll be able to get the ball down the field. Some of the other passes will work as well, but that's his big thing is the deep ball. So let's see if we can hold up front to give him time to get that ball down the field.
There are 2 other rookies from this class that a lot of people call into Big Blue Kickoff about. A lot of people call into this show about, and fans stop me on the street all the time about. They want to
Mm-hmm.
know about Abdul Carter and the impact that he'll have on this defense. They want to know about Cam Scatterboo, who is just tougher than nails and wants to pound that rock every chance that he gets. Your thoughts about what they can add to this team going forward, because the Giants certainly were in need of improvement in the running game, and anytime you can add to the pass rush, it's a good thing.
Well, as far as a pass rush goes, you got Lawrence up front, Thibodeau, Burns on the outside, and now you bring in Mr. Carter. Now you got 4 guys that are you can't double team a guy. So that is going to be a problem regardless of where each one of them plays, whether they move them around. I think of back with OC Tuck and JPP playing together. Even Strahan was in that group. So like when you have 4 or 5 guys that can pass rush at the same time, all got their hand in the dirt. It just becomes a problem for any defense. And you got 2 guys that are super speed guys, and you got one guy that's like a bulldozer in cleats. So that's going to be a problem for teams if they get them in passing situations, especially third and 7 plus, 3rd and 8 plus. That's going to be a problem. So I'm looking forward to see that in the pass game. Secondary seems to be getting a little stronger as well, so that'll help out. As far as Scadaboo goes, Scadaboo's going to be a good back, but like anybody else, you need a line to get you to at least the second level. And you can't be dodging guys in the backfield and become a great back. How to stop Derrick Henry, never let him get started. So it's going to be important for the Giants to be able to control the line of scrimmage, get their blocks. That's the offensive line and the tight ends, to give running backs, Scadaboo and whoever's touching the rock, a chance to get started and get headed downfield. Scadaboo, if he gets headed downfield, not a lot of guys are going to want to tackle him. He's a bowling ball. So, when that guys built like that run that hard, you say you want to tackle him, but especially early in the season, you don't really want to tackle him.
Final thought, Howard. I would be remiss, as we're running out of time, if I didn't ask you about the tight ends. I don't know how much you were able to see what they were doing this spring, but we know that Theo Johnson showed flashes before he injured his foot last year. We know Daniel Bellinger's been around for a few years and is a real workhorse and a blue-collar guy. And then we know that they drafted Thomas Fidone out of Nebraska. Now, I don't know if you got too much of a look at him, but this guy's like 6'6", 6'7". He's got length. He's quite a guy. Covered in tattoos. He's a character. I think people are going to like him.
It's going to be interesting to see how he and Theo, because they're both kind of almost the same person. They're tall, they're lanky, they run good routes. They'll be that intermediate, maybe even deep field threat if they got a little more speed that you can watch and have to play with. And as taller guys, considering that Russell is not the tallest guy, I'm not beating on Russell's height or anything, but that will give him, oh wow, he's right there. I can see him right away. Kind of targets, which will be important. As far as Belger goes, he's a constant, man. He does a little bit of everything. He lines up in the backfield. He lines up at the wide position, and he comes in motion. He's doing everything they ask him to do, and no fault of his own. Every year they're going to continue to bring guys in. I remember it myself. So he's got to keep battling, keep fighting, keep being him, keep making himself, an available target in the pass game. But most of all, when they put you in the game to block somebody, make sure your man is down. Don't let him have any part of the ball.
Well, Howard, I appreciate the time as always. I know you got to run and catch that first tee. A lot of golf, I'm sure, before we get to the preseason, right?
I hope so.
Giants legend Howard Cross joining us on the program tonight. We thank him for his time, and we'll talk to him again soon. Be well, Howard.
All right, Paul. See you later.